name is Emma, and today I will be reading to you A Haunting at Richelieu High, a Penny Dreadful Investigation by Bob Berry. This story is a paranormal investigation, and of course there is some teenage drama in it. So if you like paranormal activity and teenage drama, then this is the book for you. And I will start off with Chapter 1. First Day. The oddest, most awful thing in the whole wide world has to be the first day of school. Well, maybe next to having a cavity drilled by the dentist or getting a shot, it isn't that bad, but it's up there in the worst things ever department. I mean, it's like visiting some old aunt or uncle on a perfectly beautiful summer day. You know you should be outside, but here you are, stuck in the confines of some dull, hot, totally boring place, and there's no escape. At least not until you've had your cheeks pinched and you've been forced to eat some totally awful culinary concoction. That pretty much describes my first day of 9th grade at Richelieu High School. It was warm and beautiful outside, and I was sitting in a stuffy classroom on the lowest rung of the Richelieu academic and social food chain. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't all that bad. First of all, I was wearing some of the latest fall couture. Second, I got to see all my friends from last year. FYI, almost everyone in the school is well off, so most of my friends spend the summers at sleepaway camp or on an endless string of exotic vacations. In my family, summer vacations consist of dips in our backyard pool and endless summer studies to prepare us for the next school year. Thankfully, summer was a dim memory, and there I was in Mr. Walter's homeroom, surveying the class. I've known most of my classmates since kindergarten. I'm friends with most of them, and a few of them are my very best friends. Margaret George was my best friend since nursery school, but at the end of 8th grade, there was a family tragedy which forced her mom to move to California, and I really can't give any more detail than that. It's just too sad. But on the bright side, my friend Air was right across from the aisle from me. Oh, I should explain that Air isn't his real name. His real name is Alonzo Ignatius Rodriguez, but we call him Air for short. It's an especially good nickname because not only does it use the initials of his name, but it also describes his single most identifiable feature. Since he was old enough to stand, he's been totally into skateboarding, and although he's not that good at it, we started calling him Air in honor of his constant quest to get some air, that is, on his skateboard. Well, as I looked around my homeroom, I saw most of the usual faces. It is kind of weird how some of them had changed so much in a couple of short months, while others had hardly changed at all. I wondered if my classmates saw any change in me. I know I've gotten taller over the summer, and my hair was a couple of shades lighter. I know I've changed a bit. My mom would say that I've filled out. Did any of them see it? Who knows? Did any of them see anything? Everyone's face had that weird first day of school look. They were all still in summer mode, and the grim reality of a new semester hadn't quite sunk in. The homeroom was still pretty noisy, and some stragglers were drifting in. They were mostly newbies, new kids from other schools. Some of them looked like they got up that morning ready for another carefree August day, and to be suddenly, and magically, whisked away to September. Some were still in their shorts, with bare feet casually slipped into sneakers or flip-flops. Others looked as if they were going to a job interview or something. One kid was even wearing a new tie. Imagine a tie! A few more kids filled in, and one girl really got my attention. She seemed different, kind of detached from the others. I smiled to myself. She was a mystery, and I liked a good mystery. Just the look of her outfit could be a clue. I have friends who are skateboarders like Air, and the preppy types like Margaret, my BFF who had moved away. I know kids who are into retro grunge and kids who are totally goth, but this girl was pretty hard to define. At first, I would have said goth, but that would have been totally accurate. There was none of the wild jewelry, black nail polish, or tattoos. Instead, she wore a black dress that came to about the middle of her calf, black tights, and some really horrendous black Oxford shoes. The top of her dress was buttoned right up to her small pointed chin, and her arms were covered right to the wrists. Above that pointed chin was a cute but kind of sad or serious mouth. No lip gloss! Her nose was thin and straight, and her hair was black, almost like a raven's feather, with an iridescent sheen. A perfect curtain of black bangs framed her most amazing feature, her eyes. They were wide set with long black lashes beneath naturally thin and well-shaped eyebrows. Her eyes were a tawny gold, almost like the eyes of a lion or a tiger. Her skin was olive and looked as if it could have been a rich tan if she ever got into the sun. This girl was a genuine mystery, and I made up my mind to keep my eyes on her. Oops, I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Katrina Cassandra Watson, but all my friends call me KC. I've had the nickname since kindergarten. I guess that calling me by my initials was easier than saying Katrina Cassandra, so the initials kinda stuck. Just then, Air nudged me. "KC," he said in a hoarse whisper. "Check her." Air had noticed our mysterious new classmate. "I did. She's really different. Interesting," I replied. "I guess, but I think she's kind of spooky." Mr. Walters told everyone to take a seat. "Mr. Rodriguez," he said as people began to settle down, "please remove your chapeau." "Huh?" replied Air. "Your hat, Mr. Rodriguez. Please remove the beanie." A couple of kids laughed. Air looked embarrassed and gave Mr. Walters a goofy grin as he palmed the knitted beanie off of his head. Air was a sweet guy and a good friend, but not always that fast on the uptake. "Sorry," he said. Mr. Walters took attendance by calling out everyone's name, and I got my first vital bit of info on this strange new girl. Her name was Penelope Dredalus. What kind of name is that? I asked myself as I spelled out her last name phonetically in my notebook. Homeroom droned out for another 20 minutes as Mr. Walters went on about. I'm not actually sure what he went on about. I do know that he gave our locker assignments and printouts of our classes and wished us luck as we crowded out of the classroom. I scanned my classes to make sure I got everything I signed up for, which I did, and compared classes with Air before we went our separate ways. Chapter 2. Lunch. The beautiful thing about a first day of school is that you can get away with a lot by just claiming that you were confused. It's perfectly reasonable because most students are confused, on the first day that is. As I made my way through the halls, I was met with a constant stream of puzzled faces and eyes glazed over from the information overload. First day syndrome, if I'd ever seen it. I mean, face it, being back at school after nearly 3 months of aimless freedom was a shock that might take us a month to get over or so, and to cause a major zit breakout. Well, I decided to use the relative confusion of the first day of school to follow my mysterious new classmate. I felt a little silly. I wasn't sure why she interested me so much. Maybe if it was just a way to get through the first day, or maybe it was because she was so different from the other kids in my school. She had a somber quality about her that went way beyond her weird dark clothing. This girl had a story. It turned out that the mysterious Penelope Dredalus was in most of my classes, which made getting the dirt on her a whole lot easier. She was very serious all the time and sat quietly and attentively and took notes on whatever first day info the teachers were giving out. I was taking notes too, in between classes at my exotic classmate. Hey, that was it. She was exotic. At fifth period lunch, I sat a couple of tables across from her. Air came bopping over a few minutes later, holding a lunch tray filled with a double serving of tacos, chips, and milk. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he sure could eat. His beanie was back on his head, and his usually sandy hair was peeking out from under it in dark, wet ringlets. "Jim?" I asked. "Yeah, Jim. Calisthenics at 25-meter dashes for the whole period, just to get us back into shape. At least that's what Coach Rowdy Royler says. I think he just likes to torture us." Miss Crawford, the girls' coach, the women's phys ed instructor, gave us the same hype. She says if we're not in shape by the end of the summer vacation, we'll never be. I feel bad for kids who spent the summer playing video games. "Yeah," Air affirmed as he took a humongous bite out of a taco, questionably quietly in origin. "Hey," he said, "there's your mystery woman." I leaned in toward him. "I know, I've been studying her all day." "You mean you've been following her all day?" he said. "Well, she is in most of my classes." "Come on, Casey, I know how nosy you are." "Nosy? I just like a good mystery." "Mystery. Nosy." Whatever. He threw his hands up in the air. I leaned in closer, glancing back over my shoulder. "And she sure keeps a mystery, I mean. She doesn't seem to know anybody and keeps pretty much to herself." "Ooh, mysterious," Air teased. I jabbed him in the ribs. "I know that's not particularly weird, but oh my gosh, just look at her!" Air's head tilted to the side, and he screwed up his face a little. "I think she's kinda hot, in a nerdy goth kind of way." "Humph." My back went rigid, and I abruptly folded my arms across my chest. Air turned toward me with a really surprised look on his face. "What? What did I say?" "Nothing. Just like a boy. Clueless." Honestly, I never thought of Air as anything but a friend, but suddenly I found myself getting jealous that he found this new girl hot. "Well, look there," he pointed. "Your friend Mrs. Dredalus has some friends. See, she's on her cell. Dredalus, I corrected. Her last name is Dredalus. Air looked at me for a second as if he was processing my words. Well, he said, she's so gloomy that I think dreadfulest or dreadful fits her better. I smiled and gave him a quick little shove. I sat there quietly for a moment, watching our mysterious classmate. Air was oblivious as he munched on his taco. She's been on the cell for a while, I said. Ugh, he grunted in agreement as he continued to eat. She's not looking too happy. Air's interest was piqued. He swallowed a huge mouthful of taco with a loud gulp. He leaned forward. She looks really upset. Whoa. Just then, the cell phone she was holding gave off a shower of sparks, and it seemed to fly out of her hand. The phone arched across the cafeteria, and it hit some big sophomore right in the back. The sophomore was Brett Henry, who was just about the biggest and most obnoxious up-and-coming jock in school. He stood up like a bolt and whirled around, glaring. Who did that? Dead silence. All heads turned toward Brett Henry. Penelope Dredalus stood up and walked slowly and walked toward Brett. She stood there for a long heartbeat, looking up at him, her head barely even with his shoulders. I'm sorry, she said in an even voice, her accent obvious. My cell phone exploded. I'm not sure. I did not mean for it to hit you. Brett stood there, his chest heaving, still angry. He scanned the petrified crowd, then looked back at a smaller ninth-grade girl with the big golden eyes. It's okay, not a problem. He even managed a crooked little smile and bent down to retrieve the singed cell phone. She took the phone and turned around to go back to her seat. Who are you? He asked. Penelope Dredalus. I am a new student this year. She turned away and walked quickly back to her seat. Brett stood there a minute and then sat down with his friends. Somebody said something, and they all laughed. The cafeteria got loud again. I turned back to Air, who was sitting there with his jaw gaping. I reached over and pushed his mouth shut. Whoa, did you see that? I saw it, Air, but I don't know what it was. Look, she's got another cell phone. Penelope had reached into her black leather backpack and pulled out another cell phone. She started to punch in a number, but stopped and looked around the room. She jammed the phone back into her backpack and quickly left the cafeteria. Wow, said Air. How sweet is that? 2 cells. I nudged the sleeve of his jersey. Let's follow her. We both gathered our bags and books and pushed through the heavy cafeteria doors. The hallway was empty and quiet. She must have moved pretty quickly down one of the hallways that intersected in front of the cafeteria entrance. Air was chewing loudly on the remains of a taco. I motioned for him to keep quiet. Then we both heard a voice coming from the hallway and leading to the main lobby. We walked toward the sound. Now I definitely could hear Penelope's voice. She was speaking very quietly. We neared the corner of the hallway, and I inched my face ever so slightly forward. I caught a glimpse of Penelope hunched over her phone. Papa, she said, I must leave here now. No, Papa, I can't tell you now. Please come and get me. I will tell them that I don't feel well. Yes, I will see you in 15 minutes. Thank you, Papa. I could see her fold her phone and quickly walk toward the school office. See, Casey, no mystery. She's sick, and she calls her dad Papa. That's weird. That's not weird. I just looked at Air. Like I said, totally clueless. And that leaves us off at chapter 3. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and join me here next time, and I will read another couple chapters. Thanks. Bye.